Hey, remember new comic books? Well, DC's brand new digital first initiative sure does, and they want to remind you all about the comics you could be buying, which is why we have Superman Man of Tomorrow issue number 1. Of course, it's only new technically. This was part of those Walmart comics that a lot of people never actually got to read in physical because they buried it in all the different Walmart stores, but hey, that Bendis Batman book and that King Superman book proved to be quite popular when collected, and Lord knows times are tough now, so why don't they just release them online for people to read? And with that, let's hop on into the first issue. So this story comes to us courtesy of Robert Venditti. When exactly does it take place in the greater Superman timeline? Don't ask because it doesn't really matter. Clark and Lois are burning the midnight oil at the planet when they see a TV news report about longtime Superman foe the Parasite sucking down all the juice over at the Metropolis power plant. In fact, the entire city has gone dark, and if Superman doesn't stop this threat and soon, things are going to get really bad really quick as the entire city basically got knocked back to the Stone Age. Lois agrees to cover for her husband while he goes about his Superman business, claiming that Clark left to go chase down a lead. Whoa, hey now, back up a second. A Superman story where Superman is still protecting his identity, still in a loving relationship with Lois, and the art is actually better too? Geez, all we're missing is the little kid version of John Kent running around, and this might actually end up being the best Superman book on the shelf right now. Now, Superman is not unsympathetic to the Parasite's plight. After all, he wasn't always a big purple monster. At first, he was just a normal guy. Now he is forever cursed with an insatiable hunger. Superman tries to help him first and foremost before he starts letting the fist fly, but as always, the Parasite is too stubborn to be helped, and every time Superman touches him, the Parasite ends up sucking away some of his own power. In fact, the only reason the fight was stopped is because the power grid ended up overloading and exploding, meaning that Metropolis is going to be without power for the foreseeable future. Before things can descend into full-on anarchy, though, Superman goes into full-on inspiring speech mode, telling people to look out for each other, to help their neighbors, and that the strength of Metropolis can only be broken if they allow it to be so. Now is the time for them to come together and show the rest of the world why they are the way they are. Wow, a warm and tender call for community amidst crisis. Wow, what a probably unexpectedly topical little speech moment for Superman here. Geez, it's almost as if a superhero who's always represented goodness and decency will always be relevant despite what many small-minded people will tell you to the contrary. It's like this scene would have been just as good if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic right now, but because we are, this scene ends up carrying a lot more weight with it, huh? Speaking of illusions that probably weren't meant to be topical when they were written but are super topical now for reasons outside the story's control, the Parasite, after having sucked down the entire power plant, opts to go for the only power source left in blacked out Metropolis, that being the backup generators at the hospital. We get a very nerve-wracking little scene wherein doctors and nurses heroically throw themselves on patients in the middle of surgery to try and protect them while Superman makes the scene. It's there he decides to take the fight out of Metropolis and punches the Parasite all the way to the moon. It's here too Superman feels a lot more comfortable going whole hog against his foe. They are fairly evenly matched, at first that is, but that's the problem with the Parasite. He starts strong but will always overtax himself. Superman even shows off that super brain of his by thinking tactically. He says, oh sure, the Parasite could drain him to get back to full strength, but then he'd be on the moon. So to do so would basically be signing his own death warrant. Once again, Superman stays resolute in wanting to try and help the Parasite cure himself. And ultimately he agrees, why that's even the feel-good article that Lois writes in the paper the very next day, an article that catches the ire of old Lex Luthor. You see, Lex is super ticked off that all anyone in Metropolis can do is talk about how great Superman is, how forgiving and inspiring he is, while meanwhile in the night Luthor and his people worked overtime to get the city's power grid back up and working, but no thanks for Luthor. Which just gives him another reason in an ever-growing laundry list of reasons to hate Superman and want to get him as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Superman Man of Tomorrow issue number 1, everybody, and I gotta say, this was really damn good, not just because we've been starved for comic content for 2 months, but genuinely really good on its own. Admittedly, I was kind of bored with Vendetti's take on Justice League right out of the gate, but man alive, does this dude get Superman, his world, and his characters. I can definitely see why DC wanted to lead with this one for their brand new digital initiative, and I hope people check this one out. It's a lot of fun, and I think this one could definitely end up being a cool little mini-series like Up in the Sky was, or like Batman Universe was. Overall, I feel comfortable giving this one an 8.5 out of 10. Really pleasant read.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cave Jewel, and if you're seeing me right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, which I am very appreciative of. It really helps drive engagement and retention and all that other good YouTube stuff. So does liking and commenting. Wink wink. If you like my content too, you should check out my Patreon page. We just redid all the tiers, so there's a ton of great rewards. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and well, it would just really help me out. It's never expected, but always appreciated. So until next time everyone, I've been Cape Joel, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.